Every spring, millions of gardeners spend hundreds of dollars buying seeds, seedlings, fertilizer, and supplies, only to repeat the exact same process the following year. Imagine if you could break that cycle. What if you planted your food once and harvested it again next year and the year after that, without starting over? It sounds almost too good to be true, but that's exactly what perennial crops can do. These incredible plants don't just survive for one growing season. They keep producing fresh harvests for years, and some can even feed your family for decades with very little maintenance. Today, I'm sharing 12 amazing perennial crops that every gardener should know about. Some are well-known favorites, while others are hidden treasures that most people have never even considered growing. And trust me, you'll definitely want to stick around, because the final few plants on this list can produce food for generations. Welcome to Golden Garden Secret, where we help you grow more food with less work. Whether you're a complete beginner or you've been gardening for years, this channel is all about practical tips that save time, save money, and help you build a thriving garden. If that's the kind of content you enjoy, take a second to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss future gardening guides. Now let's discover 12 perennial crops that you only need to plant once. Most vegetables we grow are annuals. Tomatoes, beans, peppers, carrots, they all have one thing in common. Once the growing season ends, the plants die, and next year, you have to begin all over again. Perennials work completely differently. Instead of dying after one season, they survive winter and return stronger every year. That means less digging, less planting, less watering, less money spent on seeds, and much more reliable harvests. Many perennial crops also develop incredibly deep root systems. Those roots help them survive drought, absorb nutrients buried deep in the soil, and improve the overall health of your garden. They're also excellent for pollinators, healthier soil, and long-term food security. Once you experience the convenience of perennial gardening, it's hard to imagine gardening any other way. Let's begin with one of the most famous perennial vegetables in the world. Number 12. Asparagus. Asparagus is often called the king of perennial vegetables, and for good reason. Although it requires patience in the beginning, few plants reward gardeners as generously. When you first plant asparagus crowns, you'll need to resist the temptation to harvest them immediately. The plants spend their first couple of years developing a strong underground root system. But once they're fully established, something remarkable happens. Every spring, tender green spears begin pushing through the soil almost like clockwork. Those spears can be harvested for several weeks every year. And the best part? A healthy asparagus bed can continue producing for 20 years or even longer. Planted in full sun with rich, well-drained soil, and apply compost every spring. After harvesting, allow the fern-like foliage to grow naturally through summer. Those leaves feed the roots and ensure another productive harvest the following year. It's one of the few vegetables where a little patience today creates decades of rewards. Number 11. Rhubarb. If you've never grown rhubarb before, you're missing one of the easiest long-term crops for cooler climates. Its enormous leaves make it look almost tropical. But beneath those giant leaves grow thick red stalks packed with a pleasantly tart flavor. Those stalks are perfect for pies, jams, sauces, desserts, and homemade preserves. Unlike asparagus, rhubarb usually begins producing much sooner. By the second year, many gardeners can already enjoy their first harvest. Once mature, a healthy rhubarb plant often continues producing for 10 to 15 years. It prefers cool winters, fertile soil, and regular moisture. One important thing to remember: only harvest the stalks. Never eat the leaves, because they naturally contain compounds that are unsafe to consume. Treat your rhubarb well. Divide overcrowded plants every several years, and it'll become one of the most dependable crops in your garden. Number 10. Egyptian walking onion. Most onions disappear after one season. Not this one. Egyptian walking onions are unlike almost anything else you'll grow. Instead of producing seeds, they develop miniature onions at the top of each stem. As these tiny bulbs become heavier, the stalk bends toward the ground. Eventually, those bulbs touch the soil and begin growing into brand new plants. That's why gardeners call them walking onions. They literally move themselves across your garden over time. The best part is that almost every part of the plant is edible. The green shoots can be used like spring onions. The underground bulbs taste similar to regular onions, and the top bulbils can either be eaten or replanted. Once established, these onions practically take care of themselves. Cold weather rarely bothers them. They require very little maintenance, and they'll continue multiplying year after year with almost no effort from you. They're one of the easiest perennial vegetables any beginner can grow. Number 9. Jerusalem artichokes, also known as sunchokes. Don't let the name fool you. Jerusalem artichokes aren't from Jerusalem, and they aren't actually artichokes. They're members of the sunflower family, and they're one of the most productive perennial food crops you can grow. Above the ground, they produce tall stems that can easily reach 8 to 10 feet, topped with cheerful yellow flowers that brighten up any garden. But the real treasure lies beneath the soil. Hidden underground are crisp, nutty-flavored tubers that can be roasted, mashed, stir-fried, or eaten raw in salads. What makes this plant truly remarkable is how effortlessly it reproduces. When harvest season arrives, simply dig up the tubers you want to eat. Leave a few smaller ones behind, and they'll naturally sprout into next year's crop. No replanting. No buying new seeds. Nature does all the work for you. Jerusalem artichokes are also incredibly tough. They tolerate poor soil, survive drought, and continue producing even when many other vegetables struggle. The only thing you need to watch is their enthusiasm. These plants spread quickly. If you don't want them taking over your vegetable patch, dedicate a separate area or use raised beds to keep them contained. Once established, they're one of the easiest sources of food you'll ever grow. Number 8. Chives. Sometimes the smallest plants provide the biggest rewards. Chives may not look impressive at first glance, but they're one of the hardest working herbs in any garden. Plant them once, and you'll enjoy fresh harvests year after year. Whenever you're making scrambled eggs, soup, salads, mashed potatoes, or homemade dips, simply walk outside and snip a handful. Within days, fresh leaves begin growing again. But chives offer much more than flavor. Every spring and early summer, they produce beautiful purple flowers that attract bees, butterflies, and other important pollinators. Those insects don't just help your chives, they improve pollination throughout your entire garden. Chives also require very little attention. They tolerate cold winters, they handle heat surprisingly well, and they're rarely bothered by pests. Every 3 or 4 years, divide the clumps and replant them in other parts of your garden. One small plant can eventually become several healthy patches, giving you an endless supply of fresh herbs almost for free. Number 7. Garlic chives. If regular chives are good, garlic chives are even better. These perennial herbs combine the delicate texture of chives with the rich aroma of garlic. Instead of hollow leaves, garlic chives grow flat green blades that can be harvested almost continuously during the growing season. Use them in fried rice, noodles, soups, sauces, or sprinkle them over roasted vegetables. Unlike many herbs that lose their flavor after flowering, garlic chives continue producing fresh leaves while decorating your garden with clusters of elegant white flowers. Those flowers are edible too. They're beautiful in salads and attract dozens of beneficial insects. Garlic chives thrive in full sun but tolerate partial shade. As long as the soil drains well and receives occasional watering, they'll continue growing year after year with very little maintenance. It's one of those plants that quietly earns its place in every productive garden. If you're enjoying this list so far, let me know in the comments, which of these perennial crops would you plant first? I'd genuinely love to hear your answer. And if you've already grown any of these plants before, share your experience below. Your advice might help someone who's just starting their gardening journey. Also, if you're finding this video useful, take a quick second to hit the like button. It really helps YouTube share this video with more gardeners who can benefit from these tips. Now, let's continue with some perennial crops that many gardeners completely overlook. Number 6. Sorrel. If you've never tasted sorrel before, imagine a leafy green with a fresh lemon-like flavor. That's exactly what makes this perennial so special. Sorrel is usually one of the very first vegetables to wake up after winter, long before tomatoes, peppers, or cucumbers are ready. Sorrel is already producing fresh leaves. That means you can enjoy homegrown greens weeks before most annual crops even begin growing. The leaves are delicious in soups, salads, sauces, and even smoothies. Besides its unique flavor, sorrel is packed with vitamin C and valuable antioxidants. It's also incredibly forgiving. Once planted, it asks for very little. Harvest the outer leaves regularly, water during long dry periods, and it will continue producing season after season. Because it grows quickly, avoid allowing it to produce too many seeds unless you want new sorrel plants appearing throughout your garden. Otherwise, it's one of the easiest leafy greens you'll ever grow. Number 5. Lovage. Now here's a perennial that deserves far more attention than it gets. Lovage has been grown for hundreds of years, yet many modern gardeners have never heard of it. At first glance, it resembles oversized celery, but once you taste it, you'll notice a deeper, richer flavor with hints of parsley and herbs. Almost every part of the plant is useful. The leaves season soups and salads. The hollow stems can be cooked like celery. Even the seeds are edible and make an excellent spice. A mature lovage plant can easily reach 6 feet tall, creating a dramatic focal point in your vegetable garden. Its bright yellow flowers attract bees and beneficial insects throughout summer, improving pollination for nearby crops. Perhaps the best part is how long it lives. With basic care, occasional compost, and consistent watering during dry weather, a healthy lovage plant can continue producing for decades. It's one of those forgotten vegetables that becomes more valuable every year you grow it. Number 4. Horseradish. If you're looking for a perennial crop that's almost impossible to kill, horseradish deserves a place in your garden. This rugged plant has been grown for centuries, not only for its bold, spicy flavor, but also because it's incredibly reliable. Once planted, horseradish develops thick underground roots that return every single year. Those roots are harvested in late fall or early spring and are commonly grated into sauces, marinades, and homemade condiments. Nothing compares to the intense freshness of homegrown horseradish. One of its greatest strengths is resilience. It handles freezing winters, it tolerates poor soil, it shrugs off drought once established, and pests rarely bother it. But there is one important warning. Horseradish loves to spread. If you leave pieces of root in the ground, they'll happily grow into new plants. Many experienced gardeners solve this by growing horseradish inside raised beds or large containers where it stays under control. Treat it with a little respect, and it'll reward you with decades of harvests. Number 3. Rosemary. Many people think of rosemary as just another kitchen herb. In reality, it's one of the longest-living edible plants you can grow. In warm climates, rosemary becomes a beautiful evergreen shrub that can live for decades. Every year it grows larger, stronger, and even more productive. Instead of buying fresh rosemary from the grocery store every week, imagine stepping outside and cutting exactly what you need whenever you're cooking. Fresh rosemary transforms roasted potatoes, chicken, fish, bread, soups, and homemade herb butter. Beyond the kitchen, rosemary also brings life to your garden. Its fragrant blue flowers attract bees throughout the flowering season, helping nearby fruits and vegetables produce better harvests. Once established, rosemary actually prefers a little neglect. Too much water is far more dangerous than too little. Plant it somewhere with excellent drainage and plenty of sunshine, and you'll have one of the easiest perennial herbs you'll ever own. In colder climates where harsh winters are common, rosemary grows beautifully in large pots that can be moved indoors during freezing weather. Either way, it's an investment that keeps paying you back year after year. Number 2. Blackberries and raspberries. Imagine walking into your backyard on a warm summer morning with an empty bowl, only to return a few minutes later with it overflowing with sweet, juicy berries. That's exactly what blackberry and raspberry bushes can provide. Although the canes follow a 2-year growing cycle, the plants themselves are perennial. Once established, they continue sending up fresh canes every year, providing harvest after harvest with very little effort. By the 2nd or 3rd growing season, production increases dramatically. One healthy row can produce kilograms of delicious fruit every summer. Fresh berries are wonderful straight off the plant, but they're equally perfect for jams, smoothies, desserts, homemade syrups, or freezing for later. These berries are also nutritional powerhouses. They're rich in fiber, vitamin C, and antioxidants that support overall health. For the best results, plant them in full sun with fertile, well-drained soil. Adding a simple trellis keeps the canes upright, improves air circulation, and makes harvesting much easier. Spend a few minutes pruning each winter, and your berry patch can remain productive for well over a decade. It's one of the most rewarding long-term investments any gardener can make. Number 1. Elderberry. Saving the best for last. Meet the incredible elderberry. This remarkable shrub has earned its reputation as one of the most valuable perennial plants in the world. Every year it produces large clusters of delicate white flowers, followed by deep purple berries that have been treasured for generations. Gardeners appreciate elderberries because they combine beauty with productivity. The flowers attract pollinators throughout spring. The berries provide generous harvests during late summer, and once the shrub matures, it requires surprisingly little maintenance. Many people use cooked elderberries to prepare syrups, jams, jellies, teas, and traditional homemade remedies. Beyond the harvest itself, elderberry creates an attractive privacy hedge while providing food for birds and beneficial wildlife. A healthy shrub can continue producing for decades, making it one of the smartest long-term additions to any edible landscape. One important note: the berries should always be cooked before eating, and the leaves and stems should never be consumed. With that simple precaution, elderberry becomes one of the most rewarding perennial crops you can grow. It's beautiful, it's productive, and it's a gift that keeps giving year after year. Now that you've seen these incredible perennial crops, let's talk about how to make sure they succeed. The biggest mistake beginners make is treating perennial plants like annual vegetables. Remember, these plants aren't staying for one season, they're moving in for years. That means preparation matters. Start with healthy soil. Before planting, mix generous amounts of compost or well-rotted organic matter into the ground. Healthy soil gives your plants the nutrients they'll rely on for years to come. Next, pay attention to sunlight. Most perennial vegetables, herbs, and berries perform best with at least 6 hours of direct sunlight each day. While a few crops tolerate partial shade, giving them enough light leads to stronger growth and larger harvests. Spacing is another factor many gardeners overlook. It's tempting to squeeze plants close together, but remember that many perennials become much larger over time. Giving them enough room now prevents overcrowding later. During their first year, keep the soil evenly moist while the roots establish themselves. After that, many perennial crops become surprisingly drought-tolerant. Finally, apply mulch around the base of your plants. Mulch conserves moisture, suppresses weeds, improves soil, and protects roots from temperature extremes. Those few simple steps can make the difference between plants that merely survive and plants that produce abundant harvests for decades. Even low-maintenance plants need a little care. One of the biggest mistakes is harvesting too aggressively during the first year. Give young plants time to establish themselves before expecting large harvests. Patience always pays off. Another common mistake is forgetting to prune or divide older plants. Herbs like chives and berry bushes become healthier and more productive when they're occasionally divided or pruned. Ignoring this simple maintenance eventually reduces yields. Finally, avoid planting aggressive spreaders like mint, horseradish, and Jerusalem artichokes right next to delicate vegetables. Give them their own dedicated space, and they'll reward you without taking over the garden. Imagine walking into your garden every year, knowing that so much of your food is already growing before you've even planted a single seed. That's the true beauty of perennial gardening. You do the work once, and nature keeps rewarding you season after season. Now I'd love to hear from you. Which of these 12 perennial crops would you plant first? Leave your answer in the comments below because I read every single one, and your ideas could inspire other gardeners around the world. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Golden Garden Secret and turn on the notification bell so you never miss future videos packed with practical gardening tips that save time, save money, and help you grow more food at home. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy gardening, and I'll see you in the next video.